All members are present except for Greg. Greg is on the phone.
Greg, you there?
I'm here.
And auditor selection process discussion.
Okay, let me give you a quick summary. We've received 6 proposals. Companies are Sandra Norwood, Blum Shapiro, Mahoney Sable, O'Connor Davies, Seward Monday, and McGladrey. Okay, we had promised to bring it down to 2 or 3, right? Luckily, the 2 or 3 lowest bidders are also the ones that had very good proposals. So they're not going to have that problem here, okay? We have chosen to look at Sandra Wellwood and Blum Shapiro for 2 reasons. First of all, they're the lowest bidders. Second of all, the Sandra Wellwood proposal, although it's a small company that we haven't heard much from, they have included in their proposal special concerns and discussions about the things that bothered us about the audit process. And I was very impressed by that. You know, over the years we've said they finish on December 31st and you don't get a chance to know what the issues are or anything else. They have a very nice discussion on fixing that. Okay? The other one is Blum Shapiro, which has a really good reputation and superior resources. So those would be our first 2 choices. And if you wanted a third one, we can choose one there also, because the third lowest bidder is a company that has offices in Essex and Middletown, which would be quite convenient. Okay, now what we suggest, I mean, you can change it, but what we would suggest is that you pick a subcommittee of the Board of Finance to work with Carl and me,
Okay.
to bring it down to 1 choice, and then we'll come back to you for your approval.
Okay.
That I think would be the most efficient
So,
way.
by the way, totally your call in a
Right.
way, but I don't know how much you guys want to be interviewing auditors. You know, we got 6 bids. They're all within $6,000. I mean, you know, basically, they're all the same. I mean, a lot of they're all probably competent. You know, people can say they've had bad experiences. We had a bad experience actually with one of them before we switched over. They're bidding on this job again. We were suggesting that, like we said, a subcommittee look at these, talk to us, talk to Lisa, come back and make a recommendation to you. You're really not going to probably go wrong. You know, your call though. I mean, you can have them in and listen to them for 2-3 hours, I'm sure. But you're going to end up probably in a very similar place. From an efficiency point of view, I think that's probably a good thing for you guys to do. You could probably do more important things.
What's the name of that first firm?
It's called Sandra E. Wellwood LLC.
They're out of
They're out of
Danvers,
Danvers.
which
It's a small firm, but I like their approach, their proposal. If you'd like to see the proposal, I have it here.
Is anyone interested in being in a subcommittee?
it won't be long. I mean, I would suggest that Barry, if you want to come in for
Seeing I'm retired, I'll come in for it.
yeah, and I don't know, Tom or Brad or Dave.
I would do it.
Dave,
So-
okay. So just the 2 of you. I don't think there's gonna. I don't think we need a third. Tom, do you have any strong? Why don't you come in? We'll talk about the whole thing. We can look at all 6 of them. We can look, you know, and then you guys just come back and make a recommendation. It'll expedite the process, and you'll be able to get someone on sooner than we were anticipating anyway.
Okay.
By consensus,
So
you
we
guys
can
are
do
good with that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Do you know if any of those companies represent any other area towns?
They all,
Oh, they all do.
every one of them.
Yep.
Every one of them. And what they do is they try to, Connecticut has 169 towns. Most of those towns are small towns. So as long as they're doing some work, they're gonna have a similar, and what they do is try to put similar towns in their resume. Like, they're not putting Hartford in there generally. They're putting in Lisbon, they're putting in Clinton, they're putting in Essex, they're putting in, so they all do. I sat in Bob's office, we looked at it, every one of them just about, and they all can list probably as many as you like.
Now, would you like to be part of the subcommittee?
Oh, that's true
Would
too,
you?
right.
Okay.
Good
We don't want
idea.
to exclude.
Congratulations, thanks for that.
You're the best.
Bob always likes to include me in that party.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I apologize, that didn't occur to me, good thought there. So, that way it'll be quicker, and maybe even at your next meeting, you can make a selection.
When are you gonna get to us? When do you wanna meet with us?
Why don't I shoot out an email to you guys tomorrow and give you some proposed dates for next week?
Yeah,
Shouldn't take you more than, like I said, I don't think the
Sit
discussion.
down, look at what you got,
Right.
see what everybody's at, see the ratings.
So,
decide whether you want to interview or not.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
All right, so the next item is budget discussion. I don't know if anyone on the board has any questions about the budget, or if there's any, if you have any updates before we get into that.
I don't have any updates, but number one is ex officio of this board, and as just a comment. I'd like to make some opening comments, and I.
Carl, can you speak up?
Yes, I'm sorry, Breck, yep. I'd like to make some opening comments. So, look, I have had some discussions with some of you on this board, and I'm sure there's been other discussions that I don't know about. But you know, I manage this budget year to year, day to day, month to month, week to week. Janet's part of that, Bob is part of that, Lisa's part of that, and many of you are part of it. And I live with it every day. The general government budget, and I said this to you guys when I brought you the budget, in my opinion, and I've been between Board of Finance and First Selectman, I have been on this board, or associated with this board, for 15 years, approximately, and chairman or First Selectman, most of them. I believe in regular economic times that this is probably one of the easier budgets as presented, with a 1.8% general government increase. Let's not forget, the overall increase, even with the Board of Ed, but with the bond issue, is low threes. Without the preserve this year, without the preserve, which, you know, was passed by 2,200, you're probably looking at a proposed 0.15 of a mill rate proposal, which is ridiculous. With it, you're looking at 0.3. I think in discussions we've had, you could easily get this budget somewhere to 0.25, and I previously offered that we could probably discuss additional revenue, because we do have that house on Bochum Road that could easily, and that's what towns do sometimes. They borrow, they use revenue from the undesignated fund balance, they use it from sales, and they reduce the mill rate. The 1.8% that is in your budget includes benefits. You know why? Because my administration, with all the help of the people in here, we have HSAs. And we had a really, even though our people, we had bad experience last year, including benefits, 1.8%. Go back and look from a mill rate perspective and from a dollar increase perspective. So I'm apples to apples, mill rate to mill rate. Third lowest in 11 years in terms of dollars increase and including new debt. Third lowest in 20 years in terms of a mill rate increase. Third lowest in 20 years. I'm suggesting to you that there's not a ton that needs to be done to what you have in front of you. And I've said this for 6 weeks now. And I'm asking you not to micromanage the budget. I understand that there are adjustments that either should be made or would like to be made. I get that. And I think we can all live with it. I'm just asking for some consideration to the budgets that have been managed, the people who live with them, in light of the big picture. Instead of creating new issues, I'd like you to consider, I suggest this budget is a budget that would pass. But you can make some adjustments, and I think we can even do better. I'm asking you to just be considerate of the managers in this room when you make those changes. So that is my comment. As ex officio, I'm not saying that's my final comment, but that's my comment to start.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, what is a tenth of a mil worth?
$220,000, I think we figured this year, right?
Just 220 on a tenth.
Yeah.
It's 3/10.
So,
Thank you.
right, so 220,000 gets you down to 0.2 with no additional revenue.
Any other questions?
The only other revenue you're anticipating is a sale of the property on Boca Road?
Yeah, yes, I mean, that's the only additional revenue that I would anticipate in the middle of the fiscal year, yes. Now, the property over at North Main Street, the units over on North Main Street, they intend to be in the ground in July. I don't know that there's gonna be any mid-year assessment of any tremendous value for the October, grand list begins in October, hits in October. I don't know that you're gonna have, you might have a tiny little bump because they intend to finish the clubhouse and do binder course paving first. Could be a little bit, could be a tiny little bit, but not much. Yale New Haven Hospital, I assume over at the bottom of exit 2, I'm assuming that that will be pretty much ready for the October grand list, which is next year's budget though. I would assume that that would also increase either between personal property or the renovations that they've made. That might throw off a little bit more money. Pat's Country Kitchen might throw off a little bit more money. 75 Main Street might throw off a little bit more money. So there may be some additional kicks that help us probably for the next budget cycle, Tom. In terms of found revenue, I do know that 185 Bochum Road, that we'd love to sell it in the fall, is probably, I do know that Kerma, our insurance agent, will be giving us a member's equity of $21,000. They do that now and then. It's a member-owned group. I don't know how many of you are in
Like a buying group.
yeah, I mean, it's a member-owned group. So they've already alerted me that in July, we're gonna be getting a check for $21,000 additional revenue. We can apply that to this year, or we can just put it in the general fund. I mean, we've done that in the past, but I don't think anything of significance. The Bochum Road property is probably worth somewhere between 200 and 250. I don't know exactly. What I'd like to do is if we use some of that this year, I'm not suggesting we need to, actually. I'd like to offset some of next year's. I intend to dedicate that into a bond sinking fund so that we apply it to the budget next year as a revenue. And we can do it maybe over the course of 2 years, 120 one year, 120 the following year. And that way it'll soften any potential increases that we have over the next few years. Anyway, I went on too long for a simple question.
How about the anticipated return from the P card? What is that to me? Is it to me
That
this year or next year?
last year, Tom, that was $6,500. It's nothing.
Smaller amounts.
This year it might be more like 10 grand because it's a first full year. Actually, we should know that number probably this month because last year at this time is when we found out what the number was going to be. But we do have a full year's worth of charges on it, so I anticipate it'll be more than that, maybe 10 grand. And that would go into the general fund for this fiscal year, 14-15.
Other questions?
I would wanna see you take that money and apply it to just lower the mill rate, but I'd like to see you apply it
What
to some of
money?
the capital, the money from that house.
Yep.
I'd like to see you start to put some of the capital that we need in public works in those places rather than.
Yeah, okay, and we can have that discussion, except for the fact that we bought it with that's preserved property, so that my feeling was that we should dedicate it to perhaps, but
That's for a different
discussion for another day, right? but I think it's the same, maybe
Well,
6 of one, half dozen of
You're
another.
choosing where we use it, I just don't wanna see, just to lower the mill rate, that's all. I think we have to make the budget
Oh,
clear.
it does.
Yeah, and I think that
Well, going on
discussion,
what Mary said, I don't wanna just think about, oh, we've got these additional revenue sources, so we can't cut, we shouldn't, cut the budget here. You know,
I'm not
great
suggesting
for
that.
revenue sources, but I think, to be mindful of the budget, there's some cuts that need to be made, and
I'm not suggesting that revenues are gonna, that's absolutely not what I said. Tom asked if there might be additional revenues, and I responded to the question.
okay.
It's possible that we may have some money, and I said this all through the budget process. If the Board of Finance, if we wanted to put $30,000 or $50,000 towards this year's revenue, we could. We could. But, I don't know that we need to based on where the budget is right now, so.
and may I suggest that when you have that discussion, that you also consider the level of your fund balance?
Yep.
Unappropriated
Yes,
fund balance.
absolutely.
Right.
All right, so at this point, we will entertain motions if anyone wants to make any adjustments to any of the requested budgets. I would start by making a motion to reduce the capital outlay budget by $30,000. Is there a second? Rex
Yeah.
seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you vote on that, Tom?
Abstentions?
I did, an affirmative.
All right. Are there any other motions to reduce any budgets?
I'll make a motion on the Board of Ed budget to reduce it by $50,000, to bring it down to the 2.97% increase.
Is
I'll second
there-
that.
There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed?
Oh, Dave's
Dave
opposed.
did.
Yeah, Dave.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Speak up, man.
I did.
You did.
I said it twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
I
did.
hear you.
Anything else?
I'd like to make a motion to cut 5,000 from the first selectman.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
So, as ex officio, I'll say that there is an increase of $5,000 for the finance director position. If you were to look at a CCM salary survey, you'd see that position is probably underpaid by $20,000.
I
So
seconded that.
I've been trying to get that number up, and I, quite frankly, will, over the next 2 or 3 years, submit it to go up 5,000 a year. I mean, it needs to get to, you want a qualified person, it's the only way to get it. It's a professional position that has given this board more transparency in the budget than it ever had. So, anyway, that's,
The only issue I have there is, it seems incorrect to me that the supervisor of a town, the CEO, is paid less than somebody that reports there.
it's not uncommon, but
It's what?
not uncommon.
Well, okay.
The finance director in Old Lyme is paid more than the first selectman. The finance director in East Hampton is paid more than it's a professional position. And when you have first selectmen, they're not professional positions. They're, when you have a town manager, it's different. But when you have a first selectman, and I'm not arguing against my,
No, I
you
understand.
can throw me up 10, that's fine. But I'm not suggesting that. It's a professional position, and we have very few of those, very few in town hall. Very few. I mean, really, Bob is a finance professional, but we have none others. And I think the first year I came to you on your budget, if you remember, John, the 12-13 budget, the numbers were wrong. Every time I came into you, the numbers were wrong. Every time I came into a Board of Finance budget hearing. So, that's,
The only thing I question is, you know, she took the job at a level, and then it's just that it's going against the grain of the whole town, as far as percentages. I mean, I feel as though that with other department heads, it's not fair to them. I mean, it's
Is
not
this
fair
on-
to Bob, it's not
let me
fair
ask
to
you this
you.
question, is this just on the town side or on the Board of Ed side? I mean, what, you know, that's my question to you. I mean, you're looking at, and this is not meant in any way to say, oh, well then but, I mean, if you wanna pay a professional, you gotta pay professionals. And this professional here is, way underpaid if you compare to not only the Old Saybrook community, but any other Board of Ed and Selectman's office, if there is a professional finance director. And the reason I made that change is because I used to go to these meetings, and every other first selectman's like, you don't have a finance director? And I looked around and everybody had one. And you can't put a budget, it's hard to put a budget that has the information that we've given you over the last 4 years and all the other things that go with it. It's hard to put that together with an administrative staff person.
What is your final number then? If you
Think
were to,
it-
if you were to
I'll-
hire
yeah.
if you were to hire somebody today,
I'll
what would
answer
you,
that
what would you
question.
advertise it for?
It's probably a $95,000 a year position. It just is. And I'm happy to show it to you all day long in every other town comparably sized. So, but it's, anyway, so.
I put it up on the table to discuss it, because I'm not sure, you know, it looks like if you go 6.5, that's a pretty big jump every year. And that's the part, if we saw that in any other department, we'd get nervous about it. If we did that in a labor contract, we'd get nervous about that.
I'm trying to bring different management to the
So-
town. That's, and
And I'm
and
not
I think you
questioning, I'm
guys
not
have,
questioning your value.
and you guys have been appreciative of that, I think, as a general rule. So, you know, that's what I have to say about that. If that is the target area, then, you know, I would suggest it's not appropriate, but that's my 2 cents on the matter, so.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay.
Okay, so it's 3 and 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other motions?
Youth and family, I'd like to cut $1,600 from personnel.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Here.
3 to 2.
Okay.
So.
Anything else?
I make a motion on emergency management to cut $5,000 out of the generator fuel maintenance line. So, it would go to $10,381.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Out of the fuel lines, is that what it's called?
Fuel? Yeah. No discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So,
Opposed?
Affirmative.
Oh,
And what's the value of that cut?
5,000.
5,000.
so the general government side of the budget is 40% of the budget. It's 40% of the budget. So I'm not sure where we're going here, but.
Okay. Is that it for motions?
Well, a marine patrol should be cut 4.4, because we've adjusted that back and forth with the fuel and the launch fees on it. That's changed because we put the budget in for one boat. We've got another, so I recommend 4.4.
what was that?
What was that?
4.4 reduction in marine patrol patrol.
4.4%.
What does that include?
4,400.
44, yeah.
4,400. So, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
So, I did the math, and without the new boat, those items, going back to the old budget, it's $3,170.
Is that what it is?
That's what I came up with.
27.
I looked at fuel, it's 2,500, the other one 1,900.
I just took 55,
Right
58,
here.
420, and subtracted 55, 250, 3170.
That's not 45.
All I did was I took that number and subtracted that number.
Well, this is what, he took that minus that, and then he took, the fuel, he took, 2,000. That's where that came up.
Can
Is
I
that-
ask about
is that
the
what you did then?
winterization and launch? We're budgeting money on this, but yet we've never expended it, so why are we budgeting money for this?
Oh, that's a good
The
question.
launch, she's saying the launch was in,
The winterization and launch, we budgeted money for the past 2 years, but we've never expended it. And so this year, we're asking not only for same, or we've increased it, but we've never expended it. So I'm kind of curious why we keep funding this line item.
winterization of launch.
So it's page 27?
Yeah, it's,
I would imagine that it's the marina's option to charge or not to charge. And if he decides to charge, this is just a guess on my part, the money should be there. That's just my guess.
So Barry, is your recommendation of the 4,400 include some of the winterization and launch? Because I would recommend that we go back down to 4,000 then instead of 5,900, because I was assuming that the 5,900 would be for the new boat.
I took it down I took it down, it was 59.45, and I took it back down to 4,000 is what I did.
Right.
Okay.
And I took the fuel down, because, in 13 they used 2,400, and there's 7,000 in there, so I took it down
All right.
$2,500.
So, who seconded that?
Tommy.
I did.
Tom, but did you say reduction of 4,400?
I said a reduction
Okay.
of 4,400.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Any additional adjustments to anyone's budget?
I have a question on capital expenditures on page 10. This is more of a question. The information technology police line is for $10,000. I'm not sure why we're expending $10,000 Lisa's information technology when they're getting a new building, and all that technology should be wrapped up in the building and the building of it.
I don't know, this is probably for personal items, for laptops, or
For the vehicle laptop.
for the vehicles, and
So why do we have, what are we gonna put in the vehicles that we don't have already?
well, if they need updates or replacements, or, I don't know.
We're on a replacement schedule with the fleet, so we use the tough books for X number of years and they get replaced. We're replacing the XP ones now. I think that gets us 2 laptops.
Okay.
Did you get another one on a grant by chance? Was there another laptop on a grant? Did I see something on a grant or something in the fund? For 13,000 for a computer someplace?
No grants, just the APHIS machines on the grant we talked about.
So there's a, I'm sorry.
There was a question.
There's nothing.
There's no motion, there was a question.
There's a
So,
question.
Are we done with motions?
I had, want to make a motion to reduce the police budget by $78,000.
I'll second it, put it on the table.
There's a motion and a second for $78,000 from the police budget. Any discussion?
Tell me where you getting it.
Yeah, where are you getting that?
Where you getting 78,000, I wanna know.
We got, reduction of fuel of $10,000, reduction of the lawyer $10,000,
Slow down. Lawyer?
legal fees.
Okay.
Reduction of $12,000 for the print machine.
For what?
Hey, sorry, I
For the
can't hear.
Yeah,
fingerprint.
she can't.
Reduction of the fingerprint machine of $12,000. Reduction of the legal fees of $10,000. Reduction of fuel of $10,000. Reduction of vacation of $3,000. Overtime, $2,000, $6,000 out of extra personnel, and sick time reduction of $4,000. Those are just some of the cuts that I've mentioned for the $78,000.
Just with regard to fuel, can I say something? We trying to be good stewards of the budget. I reduced it by 10,000 already. We've locked in at low, we already locked in. And the bill, when it comes on July 1, prepaid, will be 75,000. That's what the bill will be.
For the town,
What?
for the whole town.
For the PD. You have 75 in the budget. That's what we will pay, one way or another. I don't know what else to tell you.
So that adds up to 47,000. Where's the other 31?
Initially, I had some other personnel cuts there, and chose not to use those right now. So if we have $47,000 or $48,000, somebody else have any discussion on that?
I'll add another 4,472 for the promotion line and the personnel.
Is that not by contract?
It was for a sergeant promotion. Hopefully that's been done.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as everyone. You made a motion for $78,000. Barry asked where you're getting, seconded, and asked where you're getting it, and you came up with 47,000. And
Hold on,
then,
I'm adding it up here now.
okay.
Now I have 67,000 plus 4, it gives me 71,000. And I asked for 78,000, so.
Six.
With the fuel, the legal fees, I put in 20,000 for reduction of, I think the IT, unless somebody else brought that up already. The fingerprint machine, the 3,000 for vacation, 2,000 overtime, 6,000 extra personnel, 4,000 for sick time. And then Breck just mentioned 4472 for a promotion. That comes up to about 71.
I think,
Anybody else have discussion or wanna?
I come up with 47, plus her 4,400.
52.
I would think that the 12 and the lawyer would stay in there. I wouldn't bother with those two at all, so I'd reduce whatever you said by 22. So that gets you down to,
So I come up with 51,472.
Okay.
My concern with keeping legal in is that I didn't like being threatened at the last, when we were voting for the grant, when we turned it down, being threatened that legal fees would be, legal would be used to take it to the town. That, to me, was being disrespectful of the board and what we do, and that's where the money would have come from.
All right, so we're still short 26,528.
So it gives us what, bottom line, that you've added up to?
51,472. But the motion was for 78,
I understand that,
so,
so we're discussing it.
okay.
Anybody else have other input to that?
I think 78's a little high. I was
Is
just
it?
second to get on the table, see where your money is coming from, so.
That's fine.
Was it not your motion?
It was my motion. But
Okay.
if I can't get support for it, then,
It would be easier to get support if we knew where it was coming from.
okay.
So you're short 26,528.
Then I miscalculated.
Okay. So do you want to revise your motion?
Well, then I'd like to revise my motion.
Okay,
Okay, I'd like to revise it to have $51,412. I think that's what.
I'll tell you what, it might be easier to withdraw it and second the withdrawal and vote on that. It might be cleaner.
okay.
So
Why
I
don't you
make a
move to-
motion to withdraw my
There.
motion.
And
My second.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Early discussion, no motion.
There's a motion to withdraw his motion,
Oh,
and there's a
okay.
second.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other motions?
Like a motion to reduce the police budget by $51,412.
412,
72.
472.
72,
$51,472.
I'll second it, but I want to clarify something on that.
Okay, so there's a
What's
motion
in,
and a
what's in
second.
that, what's in that money you just reduced?
Well, he said 10,000 in fuel, 10,000 in legal, 12,000 in fingerprint machine, 3,000 in vacation, 2,000 in overtime, 6,000 in extra men, and 4,000 in sick time, and $4,472 in the promotion line item.
Now, does that have to be taken out that way? I mean, the chief is concerned about the safety, so I mean, we've identified some things in here, but we're not there. And he probably should be identifying where he should be cutting. I mean, if you wanna take 51 out because that's what we need for the budget, then he should be, have some input to where it's gonna come from.
Well, I think the police commission would do that.
Yeah, the chief with the police commission. I mean,
We are looking at a 4.9% increase. Is that still the last dollar amount that we talked about for the police department?
you know, I think that's just reining it into a 3 or 3, where every other department's at 3.5%, we'd like to rein it into that level. You know, I see, so additions on all the vacation, overtime stuff of $20,000, but in reality, we got another police officer full-time on the force because we took a guy that was working half his time as IT out there. So someplace we have to make an adjustment here. And that's why I'd rather have the chief do it and put it there, but that's what I see in the numbers, when I went through these numbers. We can't, you know, a while back, we were taking boots on the ground, we're taking the administrative staff off to get boots on the ground. What's changed, and I'm gonna ask this again because it's always my position, is what's changed in the performance of the town? More murders, more rapes, have we gone up or down? That's what drives getting more police, more, less policemen, more hours, less hours, is what's happening in town. Not because last year we were at 80% of the budget, so now we're gonna add more. And I think people are a little tired of continuing to just raise budgets. I think they're getting concerned about getting too big. And that's what I'm getting from the people that talk to me. Now, I represent some people in town, so do all of us. And that's what I'm hearing. I know I hear from the chief what he needs too, but it's a balance here. And I don't wanna see us continually grow. We're gonna get 2 more positions in that police department. You're getting a full-time secretary and you're getting an IT person. We talk about what we're gonna do with it later, but we're adding, and I don't see the metrics that forces me to add. That's all I have to say for that. So, I will support a reduction, but I want it to be a reasonable one.
Any further discussion?
What is the motion amount?
$51,472.
Yeah, I have to say that I don't know what to reduce it by, but I'm not happy to see the records go from 20 hours to 30 hours. You know, it's something that should have been brought to us. It wasn't brought to us. I don't know, you know,
Well,
you got the full-time.
it was
full-time
brought,
person now, and more force. So,
Well-
that's just
Breck, if I might, it was brought to you in a budget document. That's how it was brought to you. And it was brought to you by the people who manage the town. That's how it's done. And, you know, you can put a number on it. I'm just telling you that that's how it's brought to you. The budget document is the document that speaks to the town. So you don't get to make hiring and firing decisions technically, okay?
Nor should we.
Do we have to vote on this motion, or can we change it?
That was the amendment for 45.
You can, we can vote on it. Is there any further discussion?
I just wanna say, I don't think there's any way you can take 10,000 of legal out of his budget. It's the police department. I mean, let's be reasonable.
And to your point, if the fuel bill is $75,000,
That-
it's $75,000.
That will go over 10,000 on July 1st, just so you know. It has to. I mean, we prepaid it. At 235 we bought it, with 20, I mean, we're getting gas at 257 this year with taxes. You know, and I actually reduced the usage that was requested.
Yeah, but if you don't use it, it carries over the following year, isn't that correct?
It can carry over. I
Yeah,
mean, I
so it's not like it's lost.
more was requested, just so you know, more gasoline was
I
requested to be
understand it,
purchased.
it was 85, you
No, no.
reduced it to 75.
No, gallonage. More was requested, and I said, I prefer not to, let's see how you do with this. I'm just telling you, that's the way it went down, and I thought we did a good job. I think the schools did a good job locking in.
So the fuel bill last year was 257?
No, we're paying $2.57 a
Going
gallon.
forward. Right.
For 28,000 gallons, based on, I looked at 5 years' worth of usage, I think. Thinking they were coming into town, maybe it would go less than 30, 31, which is, you know, so just throwing it out there. And we've locked in, this is not a Carl Fortuna thing, we've locked in every year for God knows how long, every year.
But if you don't use it, it will carry
Yes,
over to
yes.
next year.
I'll withdraw my motion, somebody else wants to make it.
So I have another question before you do that. Didn't Lisa say something about copiers? That we were gonna use the $12,000
Yes.
line
Yep.
item from the fingerprint machine
Yeah.
for copier?
Yep. Yep.
Do we still need copiers?
Yes,
we
there's
still need
about
$12,000
$7,000 in copiers going into that line item. Leased copiers, 3 copiers, right? Something?
Close to 7,000.
So the 12,000 that says fingerprints now will be copiers?
7,000 of it.
We were gonna change the name of the line item to leased technology. That way we can put both things under. So remember, there's a maintenance agreement for our current APHIS machine, $2,500 that needs to be in there. And there's about $7,000, $7,500 that's needed for the leased copier machine.
So that's about 10,000.
Correct.
All right, any further discussion? So all those in favor,
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Again?
okay?
And then if somebody else has a motion, then.
So there's a motion to withdraw the motion to reduce the police budget by $51,472. Is there a second?
You're withdrawing the motion?
Yeah,
I'll second that.
All right, is there any discussion? All those in favor of withdrawing that motion signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Are there any other motions?
I'll make a motion to cut it by 45,000, because I think that's a real number.
45,000, the police budget.
Yes.
How much?
And
45,000. I think that's a real number that they can live to without jeopardizing them and forcing them into going to $100,000 over expense next year.
Do you have any specific line items?
Do you want specifics, or would you just leave it to?
Well,
you've got $20,000 increase just on a requested increase on if you take all the police vacations, overtime and that stuff.
Yep.
No, we have an extra police officer that's full-time and not somebody that's in IT and doing something else.
Got
And we don't have some police officers doing administration, because you got somebody doing that. So I would think you could target that as a $20,000 reduction right there. And then you had, but I don't feel comfortable targeting every one of the line items and saying, take this one down to this one down to this. I'd like to put it in a loan
Bottom
to
line.
allow the police commission to monitor it and run it. That's what their job is.
Okay.
So
So
they're more
there-
qualified than I am. So I will make the motion for 45,000 based on what you said.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick point of order. Just want to caution the board that a cut at that level may cause a personnel layoff of sworn staff.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of the potential impact of that for the police.
Chief, that's a 1% cut. You mean to tell me that you're gonna jeopardize the security of this town on a 1% cut?
It doesn't have to do with percentage, it has to do with where does the $45,000 come out of the budget? So as we showed you during our budget presentations, a lot of what we do is contractual in nature. So we don't have the opportunities to, as some of the people have suggested, reduce certain line items a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, because those are contractual obligations that we must pay. We must staff a patrol shift a certain way. If someone calls in sick, we have to back up. So these are monies that we know we're gonna spend. We've shown you the formulas on that. So a bulk cut, the only place to take a bulk cut, and I've had conversations with the first selectman about this, the only place to take a bulk cut is out of a personnel line item, and that's a potential layoff, which is a potential issue. It's not my call, it's the police commission's
Chief.
call. I just live the budget every day. I don't know where else it comes from.
Sergeant Gardner retired, correct? During this current fiscal year, you had an officer in the academy. That cost approximately between 20 and 25,000. This current new budget, you're picking up an officer for a full year, which is half a year of a surplus to you, and I use that word loosely. It comes to 800 hours. 800 hours at your patrolman replacement salary of $31.91 comes to $25,000. You have $191,000 in all of your line items for vacation, for new assignments, for overtime. That's where the money should come out. You don't have surplus hours by adding on a patrolman and then increase your overtime and all those other line items. So you've got 25,000 right there. So we're talking about a $20,000 difference. And you're going to eliminate a patrolman for that?
I didn't say I would eliminate patrolmen, because only the police commission do that. But you've identified in your example a $25,000 cut. Mr. O'Neill's motion is a $45,000 cut. That is a big chunk of money. So at some point, the only monies available in our budget become personnel line items, and we can't reduce a full-time police officer just by a $10,000 or $20,000 delta. That's either a job or not a job. So if Mr. O'Neill's motion was a $25,000 reduction, based on your calculations and your example, that would be something we would bring forth to the police commission. But a $45,000 cut, that bulk of a cut, that is extremely concerning to me, because knowing my budget and living it every day, as Carl describes, I don't know where else that comes from. I can't pick and choose.
You can take 10,000 out of the 27,000 line item you have for building maintenance, outside maintenance. What's wrong with that?
Well, we just hired a person to clean the building, you know that, being on the building
No, I
committee.
didn't know that. No,
We
I
talked
did
about
not.
that in the budget process. In fact, the first selectman, the board of selectmen, added money to the budget that they recommended to you to hire an outside service to clean. That's correct, right?
Did you mean outside of the building or
Yeah.
inside the building? I didn't know.
You've got a 27,000 line item there.
Right, for outdoor maintenance as well as,
Sorry.
I think it's $15,000 for indoor maintenance, and then the rest might be for outdoor maintenance.
It's everything from
Yeah.
buying the toilet paper and
Right.
tissues to cleaning
Oh,
supplies.
building and ground maintenance,
I-
27,000.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, building and ground maintenance. So that is building maintenance.
Now, I think you have other opportunities to make cuts. You have maintenance contracts and all of the new technology that's going in there. We don't know the amount of money on that. You can prorate those. You can pick up $5,000-$10,000 there. I mean, I'm sorry, that 1% cut should in no way impact the patrolman. No way.
The other thing that's happened here is last year you had
I wasn't even gonna go for the cut.
48,000 for clerical, and this year you jumped it up to 85,000. So, you know, you've made a decision to go from 20 hours to 30 hours and 25 to 40 hours. So that's a large increase. And yet you talk about cutting a patrolman, or that just, I think you need to rethink that.
Okay, that's for the police commission to decide. I'm here representing them tonight. A large dollar amount is a personnel issue for us. I understand Mr. O'Brien's rationale of $25,000, that makes sense. The recommended cut was $45,000. Our budget went from me to the police commission, from the police commission to the board of selectmen. The board of selectmen add monies to our budget, and that line item that you talked about for facility maintenance, that was not our request. They did that because instead of giving additional town personnel time to maintain a 23,000 square foot building, they wanted us to contract, and that's where that money had to go. We supported that. That's in front of you. As far as the maintenance contracts, they run out in April. So there is a proration that has to happen, John. As you know, being on the committee, we haven't been given any good estimates at all. We've asked, right, time and time again.
No, that's true.
Nothing's come in. So all I can do as the police chief, when I propose my budget to the police commission, is go on the recommendation that I've gotten at building committee meetings and I've gotten from our finance director and our first selectman. You know, we've given you a budget that I think details how we use our money pretty clearly. My concern is, and I say this every year, that, you know, at this process, some people like to cut the budget, but at the end of the year, we question why we go over in certain accounts. Sometimes they're the same accounts that we're asking you to properly fund. So I understand, you know, we always can do better, we can try to do better, and we do try to do that every single day, but we have obligations. And a large part of this budget is personnel, because we're a service industry, so any large cut affects that base.
Again, I'll state, I'd like to see the numbers that drive us increasing all the time. I understand when people get raises, and I don't begrudge any officer or anybody in your staff from getting a raise. But as the supervisor, manager, you and the police commission should be able to take $45,000, relook at how you're staffing, what you're doing, and don't say, I can't do anything about it. Because if you had that big budget in a company, and they cut it, you'd figure out how to make it work. Because you have to make it work. We come in this meeting, and everybody looks at it and says, oh, I'm not gonna take a cut. And then at the end of the year, we say, oh, we went over because of that, because you didn't manage the funds that are there. I mean, I'm not telling you to cut anybody. I don't wanna see anybody cut. But I wanna see justification why we continually grow and get bigger and bigger. Your department grows more than anybody else's. You came in at 6.5, everybody else is at 2 and 3. It's not fair, unless you can justify to me that we got more murders, more rapes, more drugs. And by the way, over the last 5 years, because we've added people, they should have been coming down. I don't see those numbers. We asked the Board of Ed how the students do it. We try to look at numbers that drive what we're doing. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I've ever asked for. And if you justify that we need more because I'm in jeopardy that my house is gonna get broken into, and everybody else is broken into, we'll gladly support it. But don't just keep coming with us for numbers. Just try to manage the budget. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I don't think that's a big cut.
So I appreciate your support of the personnel getting raises. When we talk about those supplemental personnel line items, extra personnel, overtime, the only reason those go up, so we haven't asked you for more personnel hours. We're not increasing hours. The only reason those line items go up is because the personnel cost more to work those same hours because of contractual raises. So if I came to you instead of 80 hours in extra personnel, I wanted 110, I think, Mr. O'Neill, your rationale of saying, why do you have to increase man hours, makes complete sense. I'm saying, I don't want to increase any man hours, but the cost of the man hours has gone up due to contractual negotiations that took place between the police union and the Board of Selectmen. That's all that's happening here. There's no increase in hours in any of those line items. And I've highlighted that in charts. I mean, I've given you charts, I've shown you the previous years. We have a chart that goes back 10 years that shows these various line items. We haven't increased any personnel time in them. But the cost goes up because the cost of the people go up because they have contracts.
So in this budget right now, you increased by 2 people. More than half.
Any further discussion?
Well, I mean, I am just dumbfounded that for $20,000, we would lose a cop or a patrolman.
That's not here.
So it's not 20, it's the delta that makes it 45. If we were at the
25 of the
25,
Chief, 25 of the 45 can be rationalized and covered. You've got a delta of $20,000 and you're going to lay off a patrolman for $20,000? I find that hard to believe.
but,
Very hard for me to believe that.
and I respect that, but here is the issue. We can make up the $20,000 by nickel and diming other line items. But I wouldn't be truthful if I didn't tell you that I knew that those line items would go over at the end of the year, because they're based on formulas. So I can cut $10,000 from the sick line item, but if my employees use their contractual sick days, and I have to backfill them to keep a certain patrol force on the road for your safety and ours, I'm gonna expend money in that budget line item. So every one of those line items is based on a formula that we show you in color-coded graphs on how we come up with that. So I can do that, but it's not true budgeting, because at the end of the year, we're gonna be at the town meeting, and we may be over depending on what happens during the year. Remember, this is a spending plan. I don't know how many guys are gonna call out sick. I don't know how many people are gonna cash out vacation as opposed to take vacation. I just don't know those things. So we come up with the best spending plan that we can. Your rationale at the $25,000, I understand your formula, I think it makes sense, I think it deserves conversation. Adding the additional delta becomes very concerning.
Chief, you're getting a 4% raise even with the minus $45,000. It's just, I cannot rationalize losing one person over that amount with that kind of an increase.
So first of all, I'm getting no raise, okay? There's no raise for the chief of police this year. Didn't ask for one, never a moment of discussion. Second of all, the union contract goes up 3%. So if the budget itself went up 3%, that would just be to take care of the contractual raises for our police officers. We're going to be in negotiation with our dispatchers. We have a line item in there that represents a 2.5% raise. Remember, all those affect all those other personnel categories. When one goes up, the other one goes up. It's the formula.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of reducing the police department budget by $45,000, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
So it's one.
Yeah.
Did anyone oppose?
Yes. Are there any other motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
About comments from the chair, none?
Don't you have a recommended budget number?
Oh, yeah, we have
Yeah,
the budget number.
so-
Sorry about that.
We can do
Need to recommend it.
Do the math, Bob?
You following
ma'am?
along?
I
I
have
have
them all.
some numbers.
I have them all.
Okay. I got
I can
50 out of the Board of Ed, 30 out of capital outlay,
Yeah, so we have, okay.
Yep.
5,000.
Sorry.
1,600 out of youth and family,
1,600?
5,000 from the selectmen,
Yep.
45,000 from police, 4,400 from marine patrol,
Yep.
and 5,000 from emergency management.
141,000.
You said 141?
Yeah,
That's total, includes Board of Ed,
that's a total.
capital.
So the Board of Ed would be 24,929,94. Okay, right here. Is that the right number? Is this number still right in your book?
Let me see that.
I think it's 3 point.
Wait, is it
24, 979,
979, 948?
50000.
Yes.
24, 929, 948.
Yep, right.
Thank you.
And general government budget by 91,000.
Yeah.
40. Oh, that includes that. 18, 832, 738. 91,000.
What is it, 91 even?
So 18, 741, 738. So I would make a motion to move the general government budget of 18,741,738 to town meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
As long as your math is right.
I make a motion to,
Can we vote on that one first?
yeah, we can.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I make a motion, the school budget be 24,929,948.
Move to town meeting.
Move to town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so, as far as my comments go, next Tuesday night, the 21st, is a regularly scheduled meeting.
I have a little bit of business.
Okay, so we will have a regularly scheduled meeting on the 21st of April, 7 o'clock here.
Well, maybe we can even, well, we won't have the auditor stuff.
And that's all I got. Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?